Good afternoon. I'm Tom McGrath. I'm an author of narrative American history. I've written a book, Gridlock, and we in the 21st century in America know just how deeply we are in gridlock. The second title of the book is The Legacy of Secular Governance. Secular governance was invented on July 4th, 1776. For those of you in the audience, I'm going to ask you to pretend along with me for the first few minutes of this morning's reading, talking about the publishing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776 on July 4th. Today is July 3rd. I have an advance copy for all of us. How lucky for us. What changed on July 4th? What's going to change tomorrow? We are going to become a secular nation. We've been governed with abuse by a Christian government. For 1,400 years, the nations of Europe have been Christian, have had Christian kings, and we as citizens have all been, at least for the last 500 or 600 years, divided between Catholics and Protestant Christians. So over that 1,400 years, there have been modifications. Let me ask you in the audience, does anyone know today on July 3rd what form of government we are governed under? And because we are revolting, we feel it's become abusive. What is the authority for that abuse? Does anyone know? I see a hand in the audience. Your name, please?
Carol.
Carol. What's your answer?
The king.
Well, you're partially right. In fact, you're totally right, it's the king. But the question is, what's the form of government and what's the authority? The form of government is the church state, founded by the Romans 1,400 years ago. The authority at the time in Latin was by the will of God. It was revealed by the church. We've discovered over the centuries that the church was often errant in its revelations. We've come to the point now that we believe that in a more natural world, so we are revolting against both the canon law and the feudal law that the king has absolute authority to abuse. We're calling it injustice. What we're promising in secular government is the establishment of justice. Thank you, Carol, for your comment. So we begin. There's a pamphlet, little booklet. It's available on Amazon. There's a copy today that you can remain after for a few minutes if you want to read the full text. We're going to take outtakes, short. The Declaration of Independence is one of the most amazing political documents in the history of mankind. Succinctly, they stated their grievances, they made their promises, they made their future predictions of the things we should beware of, and they pledged themselves to the defeat of England and to the formation of a new form of government. We're going to start with revolt. And that's what we're doing, isn't it? Let me read what they actually said. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. That's what they're saying. They're dissolving the relationship. And to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. That's what I said, the effect of the Reformation, the effect of the Enlightenment, the voyage of Magellan, proving with scientific instruments that the earth is not the center of the universe. The sun is. it allowed questioning the church. Our founders believe deeply that God's creation operates freely. And based on that, the oceans, the winds, the continents, everything about the earth is natural. They're telling us that based on that freedom and natural, that they're going to form a government based on the God that created that freedom. And they believe that it extends to men, individual men. We have a right to free government. How can we have free government? It's going to require a democracy. The right of consent. Idea 2. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Again, if you stay a few minutes and you read the text, you'll see that a third of it, there's only 7 paragraphs, a third of it, 28 abuses. They spell it out clearly for all the other nations to read, for the king to read, for the citizens of England, the subjects, for we in the colonies. The kinds of abuse that they are announcing are coming to an end if we stay true to our revolt. We're moving on to promises. They not only revolted and explained what they were revolting against, but they're making promises of what we can expect in the new government. Idea 4. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator, God, with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's one thought. The second thought in the same portion of a sentence. That to secure these rights, governments are constituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. We're the governed. How do we give consent? Only with a vote. They are promising that we, as citizens and free men, will have a vote. Life, let's go back to the first part of it. We have rights and we are equal. We're not equal in drawing a picture. We're not equal in weight. We're not equal in strength. How are we equal? We have to become a nation of laws. They're promising that we'll be equal under the law. That's what they mean. Every one of us, a rich man and a poor man, a smart man and a less so, a Christian and a non-believer. End of heresy. We're all free and we're all protected. Justice. I have my own definition. It's simple. It's the absence of abuse. 28 abuses, they're promising an end to abuse without justice. It doesn't mean if you steal from your neighbor you won't be punished. But if we tolerate each other, if we treat each other as equals, at least under the law, right to be happy. And this happiness, what an odd thought for a political statement, eh? It was always in the past, life, liberty, and property. They're going to separate individuals from property. The national government is going to protect you. The colony you live in will become a state. You will only be a resident of that state. If you're in New York now, your home, your car, in the future, your driver's license, all of these types of things will be issued by your state. If you form a business, it'll be registered in your state. Your passport, your military service, your pension for your years of work, whatever state you live in, will all be national. The old system of the king is called by politicians in the modern era extractive. The king, what we call abuse, the king had a right to take all of our wealth, leave us only with subsistence. We lived in the cold, we lived in hunger, we died young. Our only reward was salvation for following the dictates of the church. And let's come forward now. We're no longer in 1776. We're back to 2021, 21st century. Let me tell you that we win the war. We're at war, we win the war. 4 years we drift. It's a 7-year war. In 1787, our founders meet in Philadelphia. And they make new promises based on the old promises. They sat down and said, we're forming a government. How are we going to form a government that ends all the abuses and meets the new promises? And they wrote a preamble, the very first thing, to state their intentions. It's in the booklet. I'm going to read it. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. Exactly. Ensure domestic tranquility. Provide for the common defense. Promote the general welfare. President Adams called it the common good. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This is the intent. They fulfilled the promises. They created a secular nation. Some Christians see a secular nation as an attack on Christianity. It was not. They're going to make religion free. They don't say anything about Jesus' teachings. They believed in Jesus' wonderful message. You're still free in your own way. There isn't going to be a worry of government, whether you're Catholic or you're a Protestant, you're a Jew or you're a Buddhist. You're going to be a free man seeking salvation in your own way. Both Jesus and Madison, the father of the Constitution, gave us only one duty. They pretty much asked the same things. Tolerate each other. It's the only thing we have failed at in our 240 years. We failed at it as Christians. I believe we failed at it as citizens of the United States. And I think it's at the source of our gridlock. We move on to the final idea. What an interesting thing they said wrapping up. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant. They're calling anyone who would abuse those he governs. If you will abuse the folks you govern, they define it as a tyrant. I would agree with them. Is unfit to be the real ruler of a free people. So let me read what we have to consider. 240 years ago, they told us to beware of the following things, and anyone who would offer himself available for our vote. And I ask you, do such men still exist? Who ignore the rule of law, who disband inclusive institutions, who subvert the vote, who demand absolute loyalty to the executive, who engage in disinformation and damn the free press, and who will submit to no oversight. The founders we will need expected, we will need to stay vigilant for however long our democratic constitutional republic lasts. Based on the history of tyrants as of 240 years ago, I submit that in 2021, we are faced once again with a choice between abuse under a tyrant and casting our balance as free men to ensure the continuance of a secular and established justice for all. I'll finish by saying that our founders were not quite as holy as they might have made themselves sound in their promises. They were men of property. And at the beginning, they limited the vote to white men of property. But for 240 years, slowly, women have gained their rights. Under these promises, blacks have gained their rights. And I beg you, do not give up yours. Thank you.